All right, everyone, welcome back into another NFL DFS video. Going to be getting into the Week 15 lineup builder here for you guys, where I break down my favorite core plays, my favorite value plays, get into some of my favorite stacks while showing you guys my kind of optimal build for the week, as well as showing you guys what I'll be doing for GPPs as well. Talk a little bit of ownership. I think it's mostly right on the week. So with that, guys, let's go on and get into that. And so, guys, for me, running back position is going to be pretty straightforward this week. We got three players to me that are kind of just standout plays given their price tags, where it really opens up a lot for you guys lineup path-wise. So first and foremost, Chuba Hubbard as price tag going against Dallas, which should be an easy matchup. Should be a game in which he does get a heavy carry amount here as well. Now, Dallas isn't the worst, I guess, against stopping the run. They give up a decent amount of TDs, though. And so Chuba Hubbard has been someone that has been able to punch in a decent amount of TDs, especially lately. Now you tack on the fact that Jonathan Brooks is going to be out as well. That workload should be pretty hefty there for Chuba Hubbard. If you look at some of his props lines, he's definitely projected to get at least 2x. His rush yard is set about 80, and so I think that's pretty solid across the board there. Chuba Hubbard going to be an easy click for me this week. And then from there, for me, another kind of easy click is going to be Rico Dowdle, who should be in for another heavy workload. So Mike McCarthy has been honest with us lately in terms of his love for Rico Dowdle. I say that because at the start of the year, it seemed like he liked him. It seemed like he wanted Rico to be in this role. It just wasn't working out for whichever reason. But now we have seen him get 70% of the snaps the last 2 weeks, and wouldn't you know it, 100 rush yards in both games. And I've kind of mentioned this a decent amount on this channel already, is that Rico kind of reminds me a lot of this, like of Chuba Hubbard in the sense of last year kind of started out as kind of just another guy, and each week he sort of looks a little bit better and better. I would argue at this time last year, Rico's actually looked better than Chuba, if we go back to last year. But either way, Rico is going to get a great matchup here against Carolina. They're both competing against each other. That's my one concern, is that maybe it's just a game in which there's not that many drives. There's just a lot of rushes, and the game clock just dies out pretty fast. That's a concern. But regardless, these two should be in for a pretty darn good day in this matchup here. So I'd like to get into both of them. Enrico has been involved in the passing game. Same thing with Chuba Hubbard. Another player that I do like a decent amount here as well, Brian Robinson Jr. So Brian Robinson Jr. is going to be in for a decent amount of work here with Austin Eckler on the IR. He's not going to be playing anymore. And now you get a good matchup against the New Orleans Saints, who are going to be without their starting quarterback, most likely Derek Carr. They're going to be starting Jake Haener here. And so with that, Robinson Jr. becomes a stellar option to me. Now, he didn't need to do much last week, coming in off of a little bit of an injury there as well, but he still had 16 carries for 100 rush yards, had a touchdown in that game. Again, he didn't really need to do that much in that game, and we could get, I would imagine, a similar game out of him this week as well, where maybe the workload isn't as big as we want, but that's because they are playing with the lead. Now, the issue with him is that we need him to score a touchdown. That's the one concern there. I shouldn't say we need to, but the other two can kind of make up their production in the passing game, whereas we haven't really seen him be used that much in the passing game this year. But I still think at this price tag, he is certainly a quality option for us. Now, the tough part is that there are a lot of players that are listed as questionable. Like Breece Hall could end up playing and he'd be in a great spot, but right now I think like Braylon Allen and also Isaiah Davis are pretty good GPP flyers. If Rashad White gets all the workload, even against the Chargers, if Bucky Irvin's out, I shouldn't say all the workload, we know Sean Tucker is going to be in play, and heck, Sean Tucker would become a GPP option if Bucky Irvin were to sit. Tony Pollard, if he sits, that could create some pretty darn good value as well, with Tajay Spears becoming a great option. But for now, I'm pretty comfortable with these three core plays here at the running back position. From there, we go ahead and get into receiver. Now, the issue with receiver this year has been is that I feel like we haven't had that many clear-cut options in terms of payups most weeks, which has led me to go with more of a fair and balanced approach. And that's kind of the week we have, I would say, again this week. So for me, I like the prices of Davante Adams and also Courtland Sutton, Garrett Wilson. I feel like those are kind of good starting points. I actually really like Courtland Sutton in this matchup against Indy. We know he's had a heavy target share. He's really only had one bust week, and that was against the Saints, kind of just a random outlier week for him. And lately, he's just been, with Bo Nix improving, just been a safe and reliable option for us, and his price really hasn't risen. So I'm perfectly fine getting to Cortland Sutton. And then from there, like Adam Thielen, I like a lot as well. His snaps went up again in the previous week, and we saw him get 11 targets in that game, 10 targets in the previous week, and we've seen him, since he's come back from injury, get more and more snaps each and every week. And so the fact that we're getting him in a good matchup, pretty good matchup against the Cowboys at 5.4 is kind of a head scratcher to me. Even with Bryce Young looking better and better each week, I'm perfectly happy to get to Adam Thielen there as well. And then after that, it does become a little bit of a toss-up to me, because I think we have a lot of like okay options, like GPP options that I'd be fine with. But I'm also kind of perfectly happy to close out my builds with a lot of just kind of shoulder shrug receivers. If I end up on them, I'm happy to. So I want to go ahead and get some of the 9 to 5 cheat sheet here for you guys. And let's show you guys these great values that we currently have. Okay, especially at the tight end position. Okay, so Brenton Strange is going to be a stellar option, not getting that much ownership. And so this is kind of the biggest ownership take that I have on the slate here is, Brenton Strange coming in at 5% ownership. Evan Ingram's on the IR. He's not going to play. We have seen Brenton Strange have a good workload in these situations before. It's not a terrible matchup there against the Jets, but you got Mac Jones kind of looking terrible. So that's a little bit of a concern. But we look at Stone Smart there, who's, almost 3 times the ownership of him at 12.2%. I get the appeal. The data is actually liking Stone Smart a little bit more when I put him into a lineup optimizer, actually. That's because it's naturally trying to stack him with Justin Herbert, who's a good quarterback option. I don't mind that idea. Like, I think that's a great way to go about targeting. But, this is a decent ownership leverage position here at a cheap price tag. So I'm perfectly fine getting to maybe more of Strange than Stone Smart, or at least being even with the field on Smart at about, let's go with 15%, honestly, and then get into like 10% Brenton Strange. I don't mind the idea of actually punting at tight end on the slate. Now we do have the value tier pulled up here. We are seeing Jared Judy's kind of popping up in there. Alvin Kamara I'm staying away from, but then we get into some more tight ends like Juwan Johnson. I think he's a fine shoulder shrug type value. I'm perfectly fine getting to him. Jake Ferguson's very interesting to me against Carolina. Like, I don't know if we want to get that much exposure to this game, but Jake Ferguson coming back from injury, I was worried about how many snaps he was going to play. He still ended up playing 77% of the snaps last week, which was pretty awesome there. You look at this matchup against the Carolina Panthers, they average 0.77 TDs per game given up to opposing tight ends, which for Jake Ferguson, pretty solid there. We look at the DST receptions given up to tight ends, 5.42, receiving yards about 41, and so they give up an average of 14 fantasy points per game. And so he's not projected to do all that much, guys, like around 10 or so fantasy points. Well, 9.8, 8.6, sorry, geez. But I still think he's worth the risk at that price tag. We saw Luke Schoonmaker get a decent amount of work in that game. But at this point, where I'm already telling you guys I like Adam Thielen, Chuba Hubbard, Rico Dowdle, I don't mind the idea of getting another player in terms of exposure there with Jake Ferguson. And so I don't really care who I end up on here tight end wise. I'll go with Strange for now. We'll go with Smart. Smart's getting more ownership, whatever. We won't fade the field there. And then at quarterback. Quarterback to me, guys, is probably the most difficult part of this whole slate, especially now with Justin Herbert not having potentially Ladd McConkey on the slate. We'll have to wait and get that news. If McConkey's in, I think we're just looking at Herbert to be a good play. If he's out, then it just becomes an annoying slate. So the best value, guys, is actually Tommy DeVito. I don't think we need to go there. I do like Justin Herbert. I don't mind Bryce Young. You're seeing Aaron Rodgers pop up in there as a good value play. He is someone that had a good week last week. Offense is seemingly gelling. Garrett Wilson, Devontae Adams, and with Breece Hall potentially sitting, you could see a more pass-heavy script in that game again. And so I don't hate that. Bo Nix is a fine play. I see the quarterback position as more of a shoulder shrug type of week, where if you end up on someone, you're kind of okay with it. The quarterback that I have ended up on the most is actually Joe Burrow, which I don't necessarily like because, well, like, it's tough for me to get to Jamar Chase. It's tough for me to get to T. Higgins. Like, I'm fine getting to those two, but I would rather get to Sutton, Adam Thielen, and someone potentially else. And so DST-wise, I don't really care. The Chargers are popping up as one of the better ones. I'm okay with that. I actually don't mind going with the Steelers as well, going against Philly, who maybe seems to have some internal drama going on. It doesn't really matter to me, though. I typically punt at DST anyways. And so right now, sample build-wise, whatever, we could go Garrett Wilson here and feel pretty good about kind of a potential cash, kind of safe, optimal lineup for you guys using the core plays and kind of just going through that approach with a high floor build here. But let's just take a peek at the ownership that we currently have for the week. And so James Conner's actually getting a decent amount of ownership, Chase Brown, Derrick Henry. So what you guys are seeing is some people see this slate a little bit different than me. So they like Chuba Hubbard. Again, I like Rico Dowdle. If we're locking in 70% of the carries from someone in a good matchup, I'd rather get to that. But receiver-wise, T. Higgins is getting some. Chase Brown is getting some. Interestingly enough, Joe Burrow not getting as much ownership. Joe Mixon getting some. Saquon. So a lot of people are trying to pay up at running back a little bit more. I'm fine with that. But again, I would rather just go with some of those other players I mentioned that I like a little bit better. So I do want to get into some potential values that we could be on, like nothing that we need to go crazy with on the slate. Again, I think it's more of a straightforward slate, but I wouldn't be surprised to see Jaleel McLaughlin kind of get the majority of the carries. He's someone that really went off in the last game against Cleveland. To me, guys, for quite some time, he has looked like the better back for Denver. There was a short period of time where Javonte Williams maybe seemed just slightly better. We know that Sean Payton really has tried to go with the hot hand. He's tried to make Audric Estime a thing as well. I don't know. I just keep seeing Jaleel McLaughlin look better. And so I don't mind chasing that talent at 4.7 in a decent matchup there against Indy. Don't be surprised if we see more of Kendre Miller get like some more work in this game, especially if they are playing from behind against Washington. That's not something I want to bank on, but the coach has been vocal about trying to get him involved. We saw that happen in week 14, 10 carries, 32 yards, 1 target. So, if you can get someone that's going to get 11 opportunities at that price tag, I'm okay kind of messing around with that. Sean Tucker and Tajay Spears both become pretty interesting options if the starter were to sit in that spot. So not terrible there. And then we go ahead and get into receiver, guys. Receiver-wise, the two best values to me on paper are in the New England game. I actually like Kendrick Bourne a decent amount at 3.5. To me, he should be giving us at least 6 fantasy points at this price tag. He actually had a touchdown in his previous game that got called back. So take that for what it's worth. It didn't count, but it's nice to see. And then looking at Keyshawn Boutte as well, he's been getting a lot of snaps, 6 targets. He's not good, I really don't think. But hey, if you're getting a lot of snaps at this price tag, you need someone that could potentially get you 5 points. Both of those two are going to be pretty good options in my eyes. And then Parker Washington, he's kind of been annoying, but let's just say you are going maybe more with a Jets stack there, and maybe the Jets actually pull out a good one. I doubt it, but like who knows? Parker Washington has been super annoying to me because I like the talent. The role really hasn't been there. And I've been wanting to chase his role. I chased it last week after he had a good week against Houston. Give him the targets. Let him work. Stop forcing Brian Thomas Jr. You can do it, but show Parker Washington some love. And with Evan Ingram out, guys, I do think that could happen. Parker Washington gets a little bit more work, a little bit of that short yards work that Evan Ingram has seen, or across the middle work that Evan Ingram has seen there as well. So not terrible. I wish he was a little bit cheaper, though, to make that more intriguing. I do like Devon Valet, but it was nice to see Marvin Mims Jr. get going in the previous game there against Cleveland. I don't mind the idea of getting to either of those two, but from there, I don't really see all too much. It is worth calling out that Jalen Colker is going to be back in this game. I still really like Adam Thielen, but this actually might make me want to get to Bryce Young a little bit if we could stack. maybe do a dumb stack with Adam Thielen and Jalen Colker, who is someone that was coming on. He was looking kind of impressive. He made some big plays, and so I think he's someone we could look at 3.7 there as well. Don't be surprised if he has a big game, but that workload is just more questionable. And then from there, I really feel like we're taking too many dart throws then at that point. So let's go ahead and jump on in to the DFS lineup builder. And so, guys, I've already made plenty of small rules to the lineup builder. What I'm doing right now, flex ineligible, I did that right away. Right now, 50% max exposure, doesn't really matter. That's going to adjust. But I want to show you guys some of the rules that I set up, some of the player groups that I set up. So I want at least one of Brian Thomas Jr., Chuba Hubbard, or Rico Dowdle in all my builds. That's what I want, okay? And so if I get some of Joe Mixon, I'm okay with that. If I get some of Saquon, I'm okay with that. If I get some of Derrick Henry, I'm okay with that. But I did want to tell the data I want to be on those 3 running backs the most. And then from there, just doing some typical stacks. Joe Burrow stacked with T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. Then we're going with Jalen Hurts stacked with at least one of A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, and Grant Calcaterra, who is still in replace of Dallas Goedert. And then Bo Nix stacked with Courtland Sutton and Devon Valet. Perfectly fine with that. And then another one I did is Jaden Daniels, and then I don't want Brian Robinson Jr. in that build. I don't see that really correlating as much. And then I am doing an Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, Garrett Wilson stack there as well. And so let's go ahead and zoom in. You guys can kind of see what we're looking at then. Player exposure-wise, it really likes getting to Alvin Kamara. I kind of disagree with that. I think Jerry Jeudy is more luck. I don't know. I just don't want to trust that. So those are two players. I'm going to tell the data on the back end here where I'm going to go into the players tab, show usage. We can sort by that as well. Kind of just do that. And it's going to automatically sort by the highest owned players. Like, I don't need to be on 50% of Kamara. I don't need to be on 50% of Joe Mixon. Like, I don't know, be even weight with the field. Maybe I don't actually like Kamara as much this week. We'll just go 10% him. And then with Joe Mixon, I'm fine being even weight with the field. And then looking at Jerry Jeudy, 10. Adam Thielen, I'm kind of okay with that. Quentin Johnston, if we get news that Lad McConkey's out, I'm fine getting to more of him, but we don't need to be that heavyweight on the field. Same thing with Bryce Young here, like 10. But then from that point, we're getting the stacks that we would want proper exposure wise. But one thing that I'll typically do, guys, instead of kind of going through what I just did, I'll do this actually like one at a time. So I'll do 20 builds with like Joe Burrow, T. Higgins, and Jamar Chase stacks. And then that way we don't kind of get some sort of random ownerships here. But I'm running 150 lineups right here. These ownerships I will adjust, but it's just for example purposes there for you guys. I think it gives you guys a good set of what we could potentially be looking at there as well. And based off of that sample set, this is what it sees as the most optimal build here. So Herbert, Kamara, Hubbard, Thielen, Jerry Jeudy, Quentin Johnston, because I do have a rule on there as well where I'm doing position stacks, where I'm doing QB with receiver, same team. Okay, so naturally it's getting to Quentin Johnston a little bit more than Lad McConkey. If McConkey's active, I'd rather get to him, though. It does like Justin Herbert a decent amount here. And then just for fun, I try to make some of the most chalky builds I could possible while still keeping some of those rules. 110 right here, guys. So Hubbard, Mixon, Jerry Jeudy, Cooper, Amari Cooper, Sutton, Stone Smart, Rico. So decent there as well. Kyler Murray at quarterback. So that gives you guys a good, strong foundation, I think, for the week. I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. But first, guys, if you guys want access to the tools that you saw in this video, get access to the lineup builder, get access to the cheat sheet, head on over to 9to5sports.com. You guys will get access to that for just $10 a month. When you use the promo code KEEPCASH, and you'll get the first month for $8. Take advantage of that, guys, if you guys would like to do so. That's all, guys. Don't forget to give a like, share this with anyone if you feel the need to. That actually does help out a lot, but a simple comment, if you guys leave an emoji in there, that does help out the channel as well. Thanks for watching, guys. Good luck with all your lineups, and as always, let's keep cashing.